हेलो एवरीवन। इस वीडियो में हम सीखेंगे कि बेस्ट वे क्या है प्रॉप ड्रिलिंग। जैसे आपने रिएक्ट पर अगर काफ़ी टाइम वर्क किया हुआ है तो यू ऑल्सो अवेयर अबाउट द प्रॉप ड्रिलिंग्स, राइट? सो बिकॉज ऑफ प्रॉप ड्रिलिंग यू विल नॉट एबल टू रिफैक्टर योर कोड, राइट? सो वेन एवर यू मूव एनी कंपोनेंट्स विद इन दैट पेरेंट, राइट? सो यू विल ऑलवेज कम टू नो दैट लाइक कि जो भी पेरेंट से हम प्रॉप्स अगर पास कर रहे हैं तो अब उनको कंसिस्टेंट रखना है। तो जो एक रिफैक्टरिंग का जो लेवल्स है वो एकदम फ्रीडम वाला नहीं रहेगा, एक कंस्ट्रेंट रहेगा ऑलवेज, राइट? सो इस प्रॉप ड्रिलिंग को सॉल्व करने के लिए हमारे पास रिएक्ट एपीआई कॉन्टेक्स्ट हैं, राइट? सो एपीआई जो कॉन्टेक्स्ट है जिसकी हेल्प से हम प्रॉप ड्रिलिंग को इशू को रिजॉल्व कर सकते हैं। अब क्या है कि जैसे ही हमारे पास हुक्स इन सब की अपडेट आई तो उसमें एक हुक हमारे पास यूज रिड्यूसर भी था। यूज रिड्यूसर्स और एपीआई हुक को अगर हम कंबाइन कर देंगे तो उससे हम क्या है कि एक लाइट वेट अपने लिए स्टेटमेंट मैनेजमेंट बना सकते हैं। जैसे अगर आप स्टेटमेंट मैनेजमेंट लाइब्रेरी देखोगे, रिडक्स है, अपोलो क्लाइंट्स है, ये अदर्स लाइब्रेरीज ऑल्सो, राइट? रिएक्ट क्वेरीज है। तो ये सारी की सारी एपीआई जो हैं अंडर द नीथ एपीआई कॉन्टेक्स्ट को ही यूज़ कर रही हैं। तो वो किस तरीके से यूज़ कर रही हैं, हम किस तरीके से लिवरेज कर सकते हैं अगर हम स्टेट मैनेजमेंट नहीं चाहते, हम नहीं चाहते कि रिडक्स एक एक्स्ट्रा डिपेंडेंसी हम डालें, तो वो किस तरीके से हमें सॉल्व करना चाहिए, तो इस लेक्चर्स में हम वही सीखेंगे। तो लेट्स डू वन थिंग, लेट्स क्रिएट वन प्रोजेक्ट्स npx create react app, and we can name this as api context. Okay, and we will going to use typescript मोस्ट ऑफ द टाइम। अगर आप किसी रियल प्रोजेक्ट्स इन सब पर काम करोगे तो जावास्क्रिप्ट जनरली लोग अब प्रेफर नहीं कर रहे हैं किसी भी एंटरप्राइज लेवल एप्लीकेशन इन सब में। मोस्ट ऑफ द प्रोजेक्ट जो न्यू डेवलप हो रहे हैं तो आप टाइप स्क्रिप्ट ही मिलेगा काम करने के लिए। तो ये थोड़ा सा टाइम लेगा, इसका वेट करते हैं। या ये सक्सेसफुली क्रिएटेड हो चुका है। लेट्स ओपन दिस इन वीएस कोड। ओके, सो ये वी एस कोड में हमने ओपन कर लिया। अगर आप इसको देखोगे तो ये जनरल एक इनिशियल सेटअप है जो रिएक्ट एपीआई जो हमारे लिए क्रिएट करके देती है, राइट? सो नाउ लेट्स डू वन थिंग, लेट्स स्टार्ट दिस npm स्टार्ट। सो अगर आप देखोगे तो ये यहाँ इसने रिएक्ट का इनिशियल सेटअप जो हमारे पास डिफ़ॉल्ट व्यू है वो क्रिएटेड हो चुका है। सो नाउ लेट्स डू वन थिंग इनसाइड app.tsx, राइट? सो लेट्स डू वन थिंग, so let's remove everything from here। सारा का सारा यहाँ से डिलीट कर देते हैं और अभी के लिए इसको बोलते हैं ओके माई ऐप। अगर आप देखोगे तो ये सेम व्यू यहाँ पर रेंडर होना स्टार्ट हो चुका है। तो ये तो था हमारा इनिशियल सेटअप जो हमें इनिशियली अभी चाहिए था। अब नाउ लेट्स डू वन थिंग, अगर हमें एपीआई कॉन्टेक्स्ट क्रिएट करना है तो किस तरीके से करेंगे। तो लेट्स क्रिएट वन फोल्डर, नेम दैट context। So inside this folders we can create a one API context and name this as let's to name this as to do। Okay, so we can have something to do, sorry, to do API or maybe to do context, okay, dot tsx सॉरी। सो ये टू डू कॉन्टेक्स्ट हमने क्रिएट कर दिया है। तो सबसे पहले हमें क्या करना पड़ेगा कि हमें अपना एक कॉन्टेक्स्ट क्रिएट करना पड़ेगा, टू डू कॉन्टेक्स्ट, ओके। और जो कॉन्टेक्स्ट क्रिएट करने का सिंपल सा वे है कि रिएक्ट डॉट क्रिएट कॉन्टेक्स्ट, ओके। तो with the help of these functions create context we will able to create the context, right? So now if you see here it is giving a error. Here we need to provide the default values, right? And also we need to define what type of data we will going to store. So let's do one thing here, let's define here type, to do state, and let's do one thing, just suppose Inside this state we will going to have some data like to do. Okay, so to do will going to be the array, and it will going to be the array of a to do. So let's define let's to do. Okay, so inside the to do we will going to have a id. Okay, it will be a string, and after that we will going to have a text. It will tell us. Okay, and after that we will going to have is completed or not. It will going to be type of boolean. So likewise you can have like created date and all this type of information also, who created this to do. You can just extend the same things, right? So here we need to define a to do array. So this will going to be, this is the data we will going to store inside the to do state, right? So here we can define the same things like to do state, and now here we need to define the initial state, right? So here we can define a initial state. So here we will going to have a to do, and initially it will going to be empty, right? So this is now our to do which we have defined. So now one more things also like okay, later we will do what data we need to export outside. So now we need to, let's rename this as a provider. Context is like misleading. Yeah, so now let's do here, let's create a const. Okay, to do context provider. So this will going to receive some children. So let's here, let's define a type props. Okay, so inside this we will going to have a children, and it will going to be react node. Okay, so this type of this will be the type of our children's, and here let's define. Okay, so react dot fc. If you want to import the react, you can just import. So this is how I am using for now. So here you can import the children's, right? Then what is this children's and from where it will come, I will explain you, right? So just for now, just understand this children will going to be the react node. What is the react node? React node is like, you can just understand, it will going to be contain the some component, right? Any to do components or something, right? Something like that. Okay, so from here we will going to return to do dot provider. Okay, so here we have created the to do. So this will going to contain provider and consumer also. So this is how we can use the provider. So inside this provider we will going to render whatever the components we have received here. So now if you see this structure, it is like that. Within this children, right? So whatever this children will going to be, it will going to be some component, right? So within that component we will able to access this to do context, right? Whatever we will going to store inside the to do context, we will able to access that, right? And here we need to define a value. So what type of a data we are planning to store inside this to do, right? So now this is all we need to do. So now let's understand this. We will also going to have a useReducer. So with the help of a useReducer, right? So here we need to create some state, some data, right? So that state we will going to provide it here, right? So let's create a useReducer. So inside this useReducer, right? Okay, so now let's remove this. Now we have imported. Just 1 minute. Okay, so now we have import everything like this. Okay, and also this thing also, let's import. Yeah, so now we have import everything. So inside this use reducers, right, two things we need to provide. A reducer is like a very simple function, and the initial state, right? So now let's do one thing. Inside this context, let's create a one file and name this as to do reducer. Okay, to do reducer dot ts, simple file. Okay, so from here we will going to have like some const to do reducer. Okay, and this will going to be a simple function, and this function will going to receive two things, right? The first things it will going to receive the initial state, and second things it will going to receive the dispatch, sorry, not dispatch, it will going to receive the action, my bad. So let's do one thing here. It will going to have a state means like a previous state, so in our case it will going to be a to do state. So let me export from here. Okay, so inside the reducer we can use this to do state. Okay, and second thing it will going to receive a action, so we will going to define this action. For now I am just I will declare the type. For now just let's keep it as any, right? And after successfully completing, right, so this will going to return a new to do state. So this will be the structure of this function, right? So from here for now I am just going to return the state. So later we will implement this function, so for now just keep this as it is. Okay, अब आगे हम लोग क्या करते हैं, इधर अब इधर आते हैं। ये हमने रिड्यूसर क्रिएट कर लिया, तो सबसे पहले इसको यहाँ से एक्सपोर्ट भी करते हैं, एक्सपोर्ट डिफ़ॉल्ट टू डू रिड्यूसर। ओके, सो सबसे पहले हमें यहाँ पे वो टू डू रिड्यूसर पास करना है। ओके, टू डू रिड्यूसर पास करने के बाद अब यहाँ पे हमें सेकंड थिंग्स जो है अपना इनिशियल स्टेट पास करना है। ओके, सो इनिशियल स्टेट पास करने के लिए लेट्स डू वन थिंग लाइक दिस, and here we will going to have to do, this will be the initial state. Okay, okay, so this will be the initial state. If you want to do that, here also we pass this initial state. You can just store in one place like const, okay, initial state. So let's pass the same thing here and also here. So यूज रिड्यूसर को हमने एक फंक्शन दिया, राइट, और जो फंक्शन जो है टू आर्गूमेंट एक्सेप्ट करता है, स्टेट एंड एक्शन, और इनिशियल स्टेट दी। इनिशियल स्टेट जो हमने वो है एम्प्टी डेटा दिया, राइट। सो okay, so now so it will going to give us a two function, sorry, two argument. First will going to be the state and second will going to be the dispatch. ओके, सो यूज रिड्यूसर जो है एक एरे देगा जिसमें दो एलिमेंट्स होंगे। पहला जो है वो स्टेट होगा। ये स्टेट्स में क्या है कि जो यूज रिड्यूसर्स के अंदर जो डेटा हम मैनिपुलेट करेंगे, ऐड करेंगे, अपडेट करेंगे, तो वो डेटा यहाँ पे ये हमें अपडेट करके देता रहेगा। और डिस्पैच क्या है, जिसके थ्रू हम इस स्टेट को मुटेट करेंगे, राइट। मुटेट मतलब चेंज करेंगे, अपडेट करना या जो भी है, राइट। अब हमें क्या करना है कि ये स्टेट और ये डिस्पैच इन दोनों को यूज प्रोवाइडर की कॉन्टेक्स्ट एपीआई की हेल्प से आगे प्रोवाइड कराना है, राइट। अब डायरेक्टली अगर मैं इनको ऐसे प्रोवाइड करा दूंगा तो क्या है कि हर रीरेंडरिंग, हर चेंज पर बार बार इसको रीरेंडर कराएगा। सो लेट्स डू वन थिंग, हम यहाँ पे वैल्यूज क्रिएट करते हैं और यूज मेमो, राइट। सो इनसाइड फ्रॉम यूज मेमो we will going to return a one object. So inside this object we will going to have a state and also dispatch. Okay, and this memo जो है अपनी internal value को refresh करेगा जब state change होगा only, क्योंकि state change होगा तो हमें ये values refresh करनी है, dispatch से कोई मतलब नहीं है। और जो values यहाँ हमने update होगा वही values को हम आगे propagate करेंगे, right? Okay, it's giving me the error for context API. Oh, in context API, so let me do that. context API will be like this, one object, right? And we will going to have a one field state with this data and dispatch. ओके अब ये dispatch क्या है ये मैं आगे डिफाइन कराता हूँ, और मे बी लेट्स डू वन थिंग, राइट? लेट्स पास दिस एज undefined for now, right? And this will going to be like this, yeah. ओके सो यहाँ से हमने ये वैल्यू पास किया। ओके कॉन्टेक्स्ट एपीआई का जो टाइप है वो होगा context, and here we will going to have a state का जो टाइप है to do state, एंड सेकंड जो है अपने पास होगा dispatch, जिसका जो टाइप है इस dispatch का लेट्स डू वन थिंग, अभी के लिए इसको एज इट इज़ ही रखते हैं एनी। इसका टाइप मैं अभी थोड़ी देर में डिक्लेयर करूँगा तब क्लियर हो जाएगा। तो यहाँ ये पास करते हैं अपना कॉन्टेक्स्ट। ओके तो ये सारा एरर चला गया, ये एकदम ठीक हो चुका है अब। ओके सो नाउ लेट्स डू वन थिंग, लेट्स एक्सपोर्ट दिस, एक्सपोर्ट डिफॉल्ट टू डू कॉन्टेक्स्ट प्रोवाइडर। ओके अब जो इस टू डू कॉन्टेक्स्ट प्रोवाइडर को यूज़ करेगा वो यूज़ कॉन्टेक्स्ट हेल्प की वजह से हमने जो वैल्यू यहाँ पे पास की है उसको एक्सेस कर पाएगा। तो चलो उसको भी यहाँ से एक्सपोर्ट कर देते हैं। ओके यूज़ टू डू कॉन्टेक्स्ट, ये क्या है, ये एक फंक्शन होगा जिसमें हम यूज़ करेंगे यूज़ कॉन्टेक्स्ट, और ये जो है कौन सा कॉन्टेक्स्ट पास करना है यहाँ पर, टू डू कॉन्टेक्स्ट। यस with the help of this use to do context we will able to get the data, right? And with the help of this provider we will able to provide that context जिस भी लेवल पे हमें ये प्रोवाइड कराना है। अब ये ऑलमोस्ट कंप्लीट हो चुका है, जस्ट अब हमें एक्शन और टू डू रिड्यूसर्स को डिफाइन करना है। तो मैं एक्शन यहीं पर डिफाइन कर देता हूँ जिससे क्लियरिटी रहेगा। तो जो एक्शंस का टाइप हम यहाँ डिफाइन करते हैं एक्शन। ओके एक्शन किस किस टाइप के हमारे एक्शंस होंगे ये, सो लेट्स डू वन थिंग हियर। अगर हम इस डिस्पैच का टाइप देखें तो ये क्या है, डिस्पैच ऑफ टाइप एनी। ओके अगर यूज रिड्यूसर्स में जाते हैं तो यहाँ पे अगर देखें आर एक्सटेंड रिड्यूसर एनी। ओके जो ये कॉन्टेक्स्ट है हम इसको इधर, ओके ये हम थोड़ा लेटर देखेंगे इसके टाइप्स को ठीक करने का। तो अभी के लिए अब यहाँ पे हम क्या करते हैं कि अब हमें एक्शंस चाहिए, राइट? तो जो एक्शंस है वो हमारा क्या होगा, वो सिंपल एक फंक्शन होगा, राइट? और जो यहाँ से रिटर्न करेगा वॉइड, अभी के लिए कुछ रिटर्न नहीं करेगा। और जो ये एक्शन है इसके अंदर ये क्या एक्सेप्ट करेगा, इधर जो भी हमारा एक्शन होगा ये जनरली इसके पास एक टाइप होगा, राइट? टाइप ऑफ स्ट्रिंग एंड सेकंड इज पेलोड। ओके ओके सो लेट्स डू वन थिंग। ओके जस्ट 1 मिनट ओनली। यहाँ पे हम डिफाइन करते हैं एक साथ एक्सपोर्ट टाइप action. Okay so action will going to be a function, right? And it will going to return void, nothing, just for fire and forward. Okay so action will going to receive args. Okay action payload, and inside this payload we will going to have a type which is type of a string, and second will going to be a payload. Okay and this payload is will going to be like optional, up to us. Some action will not have a payload and some action will have a payload. Okay, so now this will be the action. So this action will receive like a arc of this type. Okay, so this will be the action. So now we can define here. So this dispatch will going to be type of dispatch from here. Okay, type of this action. Okay, so this dispatch is coming from the React. So now we define the type for this dispatch, right? So now everything is fine. Okay, so now this is the type. Okay, so whatever we will going to dispatch, that need to be satisfy this thing. If you want to explain extend this type more, right, I will explain you that thing also later. So now this thing is complete. So now let's come here. So this action will going to be type of action, this, right? So now first things we will going to have a switch. So inside this switch actions dot action payload, this will be the action payload instead of a action. Okay, so now actions dot type. Okay, so now here, so we will going to first check like if it is like to do at. Okay, so we will going to do some task. Okay, inside the default we will going to return. Okay, right. So here when we have this to do add, right, so we need to do one thing. So we need to return a new state, right? So inside this state we have a to do. So this to do, inside this to do we need to keep whatever we have in previous to do, right? And top of that, at the top level, right, first we need to add our new to do. So we will going to add like a actions dot payload, something like that. Okay, and this payload like we can have this as it is creating problem, like we can say this as a to do. Let's export this to do also. Our action does not have very good types. We will enhance that things also later, but for now let's keep this. Const to do actions dot payload as to do, and inside this action, where is it? Okay, yeah, so this action will be like a strings. For now we can have this as to do also, right? To do or string, right? Here we will going to enhance this thing. So now we don't need to do this thing here now, as to do. Okay, so when we fire this to do add, okay, it will going to add the to do and it will going to return the new state. So this is all we need to do here. So I will one more time I reiterate what I am doing. So if anything is not clear for you. Okay, so now let's do one thing, let's close it, it's completed. So now if we go here, so we just need to wrap this inside a to do context, and here we need to pass this application, right? So now if you see, it is we are able to render this application. So if we inspect, right, so if I go, okay, I have not added that React plugin. Yeah, so now let's do one thing. So now here we will do one thing. So let's use that const use to do context. Okay, so here we will able to get that data also. So now if you see like okay, here we are rendering this. So now let's do one thing. So let's my app, let's define to do. Okay, to do container. Okay, so here we will going to have one component to do dot tsx. Okay, so now here to do container. ओके, वेरी सिंपल है। सिंपल यहाँ से अभी टू डू कंटेनर हमने एक्सपोज किया है, इसको यहाँ पे अब इंपोर्ट कर लेते हैं। ओके, दिस इज डन एंड नाउ इनसाइड द टू डू कंटेनर लेट्स import that const use to do context। ओके, अब इनसाइड टू डू कॉन्टेक्स्ट जाते हैं, यहाँ पे एक काम और कर लेते हैं इधर ये। ओके, okay, let's do one thing. So here we will have a to do context, right? So now if I console log this, console.log, let's console log that to do context. Let's see what we are getting. So now if you see here, so we are able to render this. So if you see here inside the to do we have a dispatch function, and inside the state we have a to do which is empty. So now we will going to fill that to do, right? So now let's do one thing. So here inside this we will going to have a one input field. Okay, and we will going to type this as a text. Okay, and we will not going to have any value, and let's have this in this on change uncontrolled, we need this. So it will going to give us the event, right? So here we will going to do one things like a to do dot dispatch, and here we will going to have the type. So we need the type here this to do add. Okay, so we will going to fire the to do add. So instead of on change, for every change we don't need to fire this. So now let's keep have a initial state const input. Okay, set input use state. Okay, so here we will going to fire that set input event dot target dot value. Okay, and here we need to pass that value, and here it will going to be input. Okay, so this is what we will going to fire, and here we will going to have a button, and here we will going to have add to do. Okay, so here on click, so on click of this button we will going to have or maybe let's have this handle click. Okay, so let's define this handle click. So first things we will going to set input, we will going to clear. Okay, and after that we will going to fire this to do dispatch, and here we will going to have a payload. So inside the payload we will going to define the first id. So here you can just generate a random uuid. So just I'm going to keep the same whatever inside the input as a id also, and just we will going to id hyphen and plus input. Okay, dot trim. And second things we will going to have a tax will going to be input, and after that we will going to have is complete will going to be false. Okay, so this data we will going to be fired, right? So now if you go here, so let's clear it out, let's re-render. Okay, so now if I enter here, okay, learn react. Okay, learn react. Okay, so let me clear. Now if you are seeing that it is for every change it is like a re-rendering, right? We will see that. So if I click on this, so it will going to clear from here. So now if we go inside the state, so now let's see. So now if you see here inside the state we have that data, right? So now let's do one thing. So now let's render that data also. So now if I go inside to do list, to do context, so after this API, right? So if I do like or maybe let's do one thing. So inside to do, let's create a to do list dot tsx const to do list. Okay, so here let's import to do context, use to do context. Okay, और अब क्या करना है, इस टू डू कॉन्टेक्स्ट के अंदर हमारे पास कॉन्टेक्स्ट होंगे डेटा टू डू डॉट स्टेट डॉट टू डू डॉट मैप. Okay, so here it will going to give a to do. Okay, so from here we can return a div. Okay, so here we will going to have a to do dot, or maybe like here we can JSONs dot stringify to do. Okay, okay, this thing, and we can have a key as a to do dot id. Okay, so now let's export return sorry export dot default, and here it's a to do list. So now we have exported it. So now let's import this inside a to do container. So just below this we will going to have a to do, sorry, not container, to do list. This is all. So now if we go here, so this is the data we have. Let's refresh it. So here we will going to have a learn react, add this, so it is coming here. And if I say watch Spring Boot, okay, tutorials, and add this, so this is also getting added at the top level. So this is how we can add. So now here one thing is like whenever I am entering anything, so it is like a re-rendering, right? So we need to see these things why it is re-rendering. So now if you see here, this is the data like Oh, it's components re-rendering. So that was the reason. So like, okay. So one more thing is also like here we are not using state. Okay, that re-rendering thing I will explain later. So now if you see, it is like working, right? So if I add this, so it will going to become like this. Okay, so I hope you like this. So I'm just again re-explaining this everything what we did. So inside a context, if you see, right, so we just created a context. This is the main things, right? And we provided initials structures type. This is the this type of data we will going to expose from our context, right? And we can enhance this action payload more also, right? Because inside a reducer we are doing as to do, we don't need to do these things. In upcoming lecture I will explain more about these things. So inside the provider we are using a use reducer for storing the context internal state, right? And with the help of a use memo, right, we are memoizing this data. On the change of a state we are just refreshing this, and we are providing this with the help of provider. And here if you see, we are using use to do context, and this is how we are uh, returning this context, right? Yeah. And this is the to do reducers. You can add the new actions, and you just need to handles here accordingly. So here if you see, it's a to do reducer. It's a very simple. It will going to receive a state and action, and based on that we are returning the new state, right? And after that, using this is very simple. So inside the container if you see, we are just firing the dispatch, and inside the to-do list if you see, we are using the use context for getting the data. So if you see here, there is a no dependency inside our context and the to-do, right? We can enhance these things little bit more also. So now if you see, all the component are not tightly coupled to each other. We are able to refactors, and this is the very good way of storing the data. That data does not change frequently, or we can extend these things little bit more also, right? For resolving this re-rendering also. So this is the good way of storing the data in a React. I hope you like this lectures. Thank you.